Hi, everybody. Good evening. It is Thursday, February 17th, 2022, and this is the ANC's Zoning and Development Committee public meeting. Greetings, everybody. I hope you're all doing okay and staying safe. We have two presentations on the agenda for tonight's meeting. One is for a BZA case in 5D05. That's BZA case 20680. That's for a project at 801 20th Street Northeast. And the second is for BZA case 20707, and that is at 1146 16th Street Northeast. And coincidentally, they're both being presented by the same architect because one is his work and the other is for his home. So, and Mr. How do you pronounce your last name? Is it Taran?
Close, Taran.
Taran. Okay, great. So I will leave it up to you. Which project would you prefer to present on first?
We'll do 801.
Okay, great. Now I think you have co-host abilities. I can bring up the plans, or you can bring up the plans. If you would like to just kind of give us a quick overview and describe for everybody what zoning relief you're asking for.
Sure. I tried to share, but it says the host is disabled.
All right. Let me see if I can figure that. Let me see if I can fix that. There's always something.
I mean, while you're doing that, yeah, we're seeking relief on the 10-foot rule past the adjacent neighbor. We want to extend an additional 7 foot and 10 inches. And we'll be showing that to you on where we want to extend and any impacts that we'll have on the neighbors to the north.
Okay, I think I need to make you a co-host. So now you should be able to do that. And I think just in case it matters, Tiffany, I'm going to also make you a co-host. I think sometimes that helps you. Give me a second. I hope I can have multiple co-hosts. So Tiffany, in case you need extra privileges, you have those now.
Okay, so 801 20th Street. This is at the corner, or between 20th Street and H Street, and there's a public alley. We are this lot here, and we do have a sizable lot as these other homes on H Street. They seem to be about double the lot as the rest of the homes. You can see that the white part is the existing house, and we're proposing to add some bump outs for DDOT, and this, because this is a building restriction line right here. So this we have to go through DDOT since it's considered public space. And in the back here is what we're extending. And we go to the next plan. You'll see here is the edge of the adjacent house, and we're proposing to go 17 feet. So 7 feet or 17 feet and 10 inches past that location. Here you can see a little bit better. It's 1610 here, but there's a foot bump out for aesthetic reasons. So 10 feet is by right, and we're proposing to go that additional 7 feet and 10 inches. And we'll look at these. The plans quickly. We want to turn it into a 3-unit building. Let's see, the cellar is part of Unit A, consisting of 4 bedrooms. And the first floor will consist of Unit A with public space with the kitchen, dining room, and the living room. And the other half is actually Unit B, 2 bedrooms. And we go up to the second floor, you have all of Unit B, which will be an additional 2 bedrooms and the living space. So Unit A and Unit B, which comprise of the cellar, first floor, second floor, are both 4 bedrooms. And then we get to the top floor, to the third floor, it's a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, and you have a living space up here. And then we do have another set of staircases going up to a roof deck, which occupies half of the roof. And the other half is a gable roof. I'll explain a little bit more when we look at 3D images on why we decided to do that. We go to the elevations. We'll look at the 3D ones, which will give much more information. These are the nice 2D old school, but just to get an idea. This here is showing the existing residence of what it entails and what we would be, what we're proposing. There is actually, the 10 feet goes to about right there. So this is all by right. And actually by right, you could actually, if you do you go 40 feet and you have a 4-foot parapet. So we could, in theory, have, all of this could be enclosed as well, if we were to go that route. But we were hoping that, by asking for this extension and not going the max on this side, hopefully we're giving a little bit to get a little bit.
Could you refresh everyone's memory? What is the excluding the parapet wall? What is the maximum height, the matter of right height allowed for RF4?
Yeah, it's 40 feet. And then you could do the parapet, which up to an extra 4 feet above that. So we go to the 3D images. Here's a plan. This is taken at noon on summer solstice, just to get an idea of how the sun would interact with these buildings. And remember, we're adding this part right here, the 10 feet. And we'll go through a sun study as well to show what the extra shading, how that's affecting the property. But just to go this, rather quickly, we are considering the massing of what most of these, 3-unit or 3-story developments are in DC. We're trying to break up the massing so it doesn't look so enormous. We do understand it is going to be obviously taller than the neighbor. This shows you a little bit more, but we're hoping by breaking it up some, it's not so in your face. You can see that a little bit here, and that's why we decided to kind of add the gable roof as well. It will help a little bit, with the shadows, as this is south facing. So it will help a little bit rather than just having it go all the way 40 feet, parapet all the way around. So that it does help. You can see how these two pieces break up the long, the linear aspect of what this could be. And so this is how this house would be affected at 12 p.m. on summer solstice. Winter, as we'll look at the sun studies, it will be affected more since the sun is lower. But you do get an idea here of this is the 10 feet that it can extend by right. And this is an additional 7 feet and 10 inches that we're asking for. And I believe we have one more image. And that's just looking straight on from H Street. Just try and break up the massing, which this here to the right would be what we're asking for as well on this side. And when we go to the sun studies, so this first one, it's the winter solstice at 3, or no, that's not the first one. This is 9 a.m. To the right is a matter of right. To the left is what we're proposing. At this time at 9 a.m., there is no effect for the addition here in the back. We go to 12 p.m. and you see the matter of right is over here to the right, and the proposed is this red solid color. And you can see it is covering more of the yard, but is not affecting the house itself. And then by 3 o'clock, you can see it's just an issue. It's covering the alley, has no impact on the house at all. And then we go to, I think the other ones those were summer, now we're in winter solstice. So here at 9 a.m., there is a little bit more of an impact to the house. Not that much to the one immediate north. It's just cutting the corner a little bit. It does affect the one right above that a little bit more. But once we get to 12 o'clock, you can see the shadow is on the yard, but it's not on the house anymore. And then we get to 3. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, would you mind going back? Because I think,
sure.
I mean, we understand these tall buildings are going to cause shadows. I think what there was, maybe go back, was when you had the 3D renders. I think those were useful
sure.
for us to understand just context of the building with the neighbors. So, and there was one that showed
the ones from the back.
Rooftop. Yeah, that's a good one there. So, one question that we had an architect raise is, how is it typically the building height right? There's an exclusion, the height is 40 feet. And, but then there's you're allowed to then go 4 feet above that for a parapet wall. And you can, there is penthouses, but you've enclosed a lot. It's not just the stairs, you've got that whole dormer appeal there. And has the zoning, do you have does the zoning administrator, did they say, like, how is that, how are you allowed to build that structure?
Okay, so yeah, this dormer here, I am working with Mr. Washington, the zoning reviewer, and he has brought that up as a point that we may have to change because it is acting more as a penthouse and not as a dormer. And I am having conversations with him to resolve this. If they do deem this as a penthouse, we wouldn't come back and ask that as a special exception. We would resolve that so that'd be approved by right. So this is an outstanding issue that I'm working with the zoning. And as far as the height goes for sloped roofs, when there's a ridge, they take the midpoint from that down to the ground, and that's 40 feet. And if it's a flat roof, as it is back here, it's 40 feet. But back here for the flat roof, we're at, I think it's a little bit under 36 feet.
Yeah, well, that's my question. So what I really want to know is not so much about the slope roof, and I think that's where we got a little bit mixed up during the last meeting, because what I'm asking about is that issue where, yeah, exactly. And so what I want to know is how close are you? Because that's what I was trying to figure out at the meeting. I thought you already had a letter. So, but how close do you think you are to getting a letter or something final, some kind of final decision either way?
Yeah, I'm hoping to resolve it this week or next week at the latest. So by the next ANC hearing, we'd have these updated for whatever zoning would approve.
Okay, that's helpful to know. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If the zoning reviewer does deem that a penthouse and you're going to remove that, because there is going to be a light impact on the neighbor, one thing that we have asked some recent projects to do, there's one actually at the corner of Neal and West Virginia that's going on right now. And they actually did not have the parapet wall go all the way to the back. Like they and I think in RF1 it's 35 feet, and then you can go up to 39.
Yeah.
They're not even doing the parapet wall like towards, I think they have they're basically doing a rear setback on the parapet wall about maybe like 10 feet. And then, again, it was to do it so because every foot matters of light. And so they were trying to do, so if you end up doing that, again, just try to, if you can minimize, if it doesn't decrease the functionality, it is a large structure. I'm not sure how many, was that penthouse, sorry, was that area up there, was it going to be exclusive to just one unit, or is it multiple units via an internal staircase?
It'd only be the third floor unit, which is a 2-bedroom.
Okay.
Yeah, they'd be the only ones that could get up there.
Hey,
unless they invite the other 2 units.
What is the height of the gable?
Let me go to the elevation. So the top of the gable is at 44 feet from the building height measuring point, which is at the, up here, because there's a slope, to the yard, where the front door is going to be along H Street. It's lower, but the front door right now on 20th Street is lower by about almost 5 feet. So that's where we're taking the measuring point from.
And the 44, you had previously said that was the 4 feet maximum building height, and then you add 4 feet for a parapet?
No, so if it's a flat roof, like we have here along 20th Street, so we have a flat roof right here, this could go up to 40 feet. And then we could go another 4 feet for a parapet, for a flat roof. A sloped roof, in theory, you could, as long as this is the midpoint under 40 feet, you could have a slope that did something like this.
I see.
And the midpoint right here would have to be 40 feet or less. So you could change the slope and play with that.
So we're really measuring to the midpoint of that gap.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
Kind of getting a little bit of extra height there.
And that's what we have, 39'8" right there.
Okay.
So that's how they measure it with them. And then if this is a dormer, dormers don't get measured against the height.
Okay. Got it. So it would be possible potentially to look at this in a little bit more of a diminished design with a little bit less height if that stair penthouse pop-up had to go away. Some of this height might have to be reduced a little bit to get all that to resolve out.
Well, we probably still want to keep the stairs, but we did some type of a roof hatch that you'd be able to open up, that you could still be below the parapet height. I got that approved in another project about 2 weeks ago. And that was a by right, where you can't see the skylight or the roof hatch, and it just opens up as you go up the stairs.
Okay.
Those look, there was a BZA case a couple of years ago for 1261, 1263 Oat Street, and they did those. They had those kind of pop out roof hatches, so, and my understanding is it's a little more expensive, but it really kind of helps, it's not, there's a 4-flat under construction right now on Holbrook Street, and there's this huge ridiculous thing that just makes it a lot taller, and it's just a walk upstairs. Everyone loves a skylight. I think they should have done something like that. But I know construction costs, we don't want to push things so they become unaffordable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we were talking last time we looked at this last month about that stair, and it seemed we weren't sure if it was working out correctly with elevations and things like that. You don't happen to have a section through there, do you?
Let's see. I have not. I mean, you can kind of see it this way, going from west to east, but I don't have one going the other way. But you kind of see this. You have the stairs going up here, and there's a small landing to come out to the roof deck over here. So if this gets changed to a type of roof hatch, then basically the gable would come all the way across, and you'd probably see, let me go back here. Let me draw this real quick. The gable then would probably would be more along these lines, like this. Maybe this would be all gable, and this would be a flat roof going across here. So then there'll be a little bit of flatness in this corner still to get that roof hatch so they could get out. So I think it would change, it would if you go back here, it would change this.
I'm curious, what is when you do those pop-up rooftop hatches, what is the building code requirement for having the gable above that hatch for safety purposes? Like, obviously you don't want someone coming up the hatch, and is it like 4 feet, or is it?
I believe as long as you have the clearance, and it's also different, if this was going to be for the whole building, there'd be a different set of requirements. Where that other project you mentioned with the penthouse, maybe they all have access to the penthouse. So then there's other requirements for the building code. If it's just one unit, there's 2 bedrooms, so they consider 1 bedroom a couple, and another bedroom one child or another person, so 3 people. So you have a lot more leeway on egress requirements for that.
While you have this, let me just check the chat log, make sure no one's asking any questions. The Google Street View.
Well, this is Derek. I just had a quick question, if you don't
Sure.
mind,
Sure.
while we're on this slide. So we're asking for the 17 feet, and that's to be the extension of the back. As of right now, the roof is not what's in question, because that's by right. So.
Well, that's the conversation we're having, whether it should be or it shouldn't be. And so he's going to have a conversation with the zoning administrator. That's part of an ongoing conversation that they're having. And he's expecting a decision sometime, I think you said this week or next week. Sorry.
Hopefully this week or resolved by next week.
Okay.
Right,
mean,
but
for-
it's not a penthouse, it's a stairway, right, with the gable roof, so.
Well, for this BZA
Makes
case,
sense.
we're only asking for the 7 foot 10 inches. Whatever this dormer or penthouse, whatever that becomes, we're going to resolve that by right. And we hope, like I
Okay.
said, that should be taken care of this week or next week. That's that we
Good.
definitely have it by the for the ANC hearing.
Before.
And
Yeah.
and if they allow this, then I'll have that in writing for Mr. Washington. If they make us change it, then we'll change it accordingly.
And just a reminder, his BZA hearing is Wednesday, April 13. And I want to look at the calendar real quick, see how does that, so I assume it's your intention then to present before the full ANC. Okay, so there is an opportunity to present in April, the day before, but that's not fun. Because if you present it at the Tuesday, April 12th meeting, it gives them almost no time to they can do it, and they have done it. It's just a kind of a scramble to get the ANC report submitted. So it sounds like you're probably looking at March 8th, actually, because the 1st of March is the first Tuesday of the month, so that you'd be, so you actually have a pretty quick turnaround to present a revised design on the ANC. I assume that that's the plan, is to present a revised design and ask for a vote of support at the next
Well,
ANC.
Yeah. It'll be whatever zoning is approving by right, and then this extension that we're requesting from the BZA.
One other question, just maybe a little bit of a detail. Are you going to have a gutter on that gable adjacent to the neighbor's yard?
Yes. So on this here, the plan is an interior gutter here, so they could go down this exterior extension that extends a foot. Over here, we have the water drain this way, and then onto the flat roof where they have scuppers on the front over here on 20th Street.
Okay, that sounds good.
Are there any issues with shared chimneys in the property line? The house as I'm looking at it, on the
here.
right side.
Not that I'm aware of. I didn't see any. If there is, they're pretty low. I believe this is their chimney here that they have with both neighbors use this chimney.
Let me just check Google Street View. There's a question in the chat. Derek is saying in the chat, it shouldn't be counted as a penthouse. It's not livable space.
Yeah, Derek and I discussed that offline
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I mean,
because it's a zoning administrator question.
I'm trying to, oh, there, okay. fine.
I want to double check the chimney
Yeah, let me do a screen share real quick.
if you
I'm
can.
gonna quickly do that.
Okay.
You
Let
guys
me
see
stop
my
my share.
screen? I should have just taken over it. Let's see. Let me just share this.
Because all of
There we
these
go.
houses have shared chimneys on this block, and I would wonder why the chimney would be on the other side in this instance.
Okay. Are you seeing my screen here?
Yes.
Yeah.
You are. Okay. I believe. Okay. Yes. This is the house. This is your client's house here. This is 801. I believe this is 801 right here. Yes. All right. So that's the project house. I'm just going to walk down the street. There. That's what so it looks like there is a shared chimney. I think the adjoining house, the adjacent house is sharing their chimney right here. So have you
Kevin, I
had
think
conversation?
we might be
We
seeing a
can't see
different
the
screen.
screen you're looking
Oh.
at.
Let me try that again. I'm going to share my desktop, and I'm going to drag this thing down here. All right, how's that?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. I apologize.
Hmm.
This is the house here, and this is the
So-
neighbor here. So have you had
Yeah,
conversations?
so there is.
Yeah. So we put the chimney in the wrong spot. So yeah, I mean, if that's a working chimney, then we'll have to extend that to what and get a permit for that owner and extend
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
W-
it
what-
is.
It is a
So-
working chimney?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one thing that we have encouraged people to do is, and I think there was a house around the corner and they've got this huge tall extension on a working, on a working chimney. But if that homeowner ever upgrades to a slightly more efficient, more modern unit, and it's not as, and what it means it's more efficient, it's actually not as hot. There's just a risk that actually can't get, the draft up there, and there's a carbon monoxide risk. And what we kind of encourage, developers to do is that instead of extending the chimney, just retire the chimney and, upgrade the neighbor to a condensing boiler unit or something, so that the neighbor feels that they're not like, that they're getting something out of, because they're going to be living next to a construction site for a year. And, it's one of these things that way, if they get a new modern condensing boiler unit system, you're eliminating the risk of any carbon monoxide issues with that vent, some kind of a crazy construction on their roof. Instead of extending it, just eliminate it, and they'll benefit from something new and modern and lower energy costs as well. But yeah, I think you need to have a conversation with the adjoining homeowner. That's a construction issue. That is a building code issue with DCRA rather than a zoning. That's not a, I don't think there's a zoning regulation to do with that, but it's something that will come up during the DCRA review process.
Yes.
I did have, if you can show your plans again, I had another question
Sure.
about the front. If you can show the view that shows the front of the house.
This one?
Oh, no, sorry, the old
Or-
front on
Okay.
20th
Yeah.
Street. Is there any, the next picture down is even better, actually.
Okay. All right.
Is there any risk there of rain in that kind of valley there between the new building and the adjoining? What will happen with water there? Normally that the neighbor's house there, the water would just flow down onto the kind of the shared parapet wall. What's the drainage going to be like there?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to have to be waterproofing between these two roofs.
Okay.
You're going to have to go underneath this roof, go up this wall, make sure that works properly. And there's going to have to be some type of gutter here to collect the rain coming down from this slope and that slope and from the wall. So that could come down here and go down the wall and out into the yard.
And the same thing for snow. Is there a process in place that you've started for dealing with the impact of snow loads onto the neighbor?
Yeah, I believe that was one of the structural review comments. So our structural engineer is confirming that it's, there's no issues with that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we've had several, I think most people are in favor of more development, but what happens is there's enough neighbors in the community who've had a pop-up next to their house and they've had to deal with horrendous drainage issues and
Yes.
flooding and water damage in their houses. And then that makes everyone really nervous about like a pop-up occurring next to their house, So it's just one of these things we really want to be sure that, that this is something where it doesn't become a nightmare for, because the older homes having gone through the full renovation that may not have, they may not have been repointed in 50 years. And right now there's no leaks, but that's the risk is when suddenly you change the water. I mean, it happened with me. Personally, it happened with me where when an addition came next to me and it changed how the water was flowing against the side of my house. And lo and behold, it turns out I need to do repointing. It wasn't an issue before because there just wasn't that much water being guttered, being directed towards those bricks. So we just want to be sure that, the adjoining homeowner isn't put, doesn't suffer because of this project here.
Definitely. In projects like this, I usually provide at least a sheet, almost 2 sheets of just waterproofing details. I mean, it's the worst thing that can happen. And then once you cover it up, you don't know for a year or into really heavy rainfall if there is an issue. So you really want to be careful with waterproofing.
Okay. So Are there any other questions on this project, or should we move on to the next presentation?
No more questions from me.
Okay, Mr. Turan, would you want to move on to the, if you,
Yeah.
I think it sounds like the
All right,
design is
great.
still a little bit, the design is still on this, is still a little bit in flux because we need to get some confirmation from the zoning administrator. So this will change. As soon as you have a change, if you want to send it to Commissioner Moore, and that way is to give him an early heads up, because there's literally not that much time before the next ANC meeting. And in case you want to get some quick feedback, that is really, that's what it is, 3 weeks from now is the ANC. So if you end up getting some feedback from the zoning administrator, you want to send some draft concepts as soon as possible. We would appreciate that.
Sure. I mean, the only thing I'd like to add is, this penthouse, dormer, whatever they determine it is and however we fix it, it has nothing to do with the BZA application. The BZA application is only for that 7 foot and 10 inches. This will be resolved by right.
Yeah.
So that one way or another, it's going to be resolved by right.
We hear you.
Yeah, but I would argue, well, anytime you're asking for zoning relief, they do want to know that you're taking care to minimize the shading on the, that's why they ask you for a shade study. So right now the structure with the slope roof, if that vanished, there would be less shading on the backyard. So that
Yes.
might actually be, even though there's not a zoning regulation, it kind of is, because this is the general, and anytime you're asking the BZA to give you zoning relief, they like it when you're as respectful as possible to the adjoining neighbors when it comes to shading.
Yeah, no, that's why we did the gable roof and didn't do a flat roof too
Yeah.
high, and so we are considerate of that, and we'll take it a step further as needed to get that section approved by right, and hopefully have everybody somewhat happy.
Yeah, we hear you. If you'll just send whatever's final as soon as you have it, that
Okay.
would be appreciated.
Definitely. Should we jump to the next one?
Please.
Okay. It's fun. This is the first time I've ever done 2 like this. Let's see. Okay. So this one is actually it's for my wife and myself. It is an investment property that we hope to hold to on long term. Eventually, we have 2 boys, 10 and 4. Maybe one day if they go live in DC, they can have it or live in there. But that is our goal, to have this long term. This is located at 1146. If we zoom in, it's right on Meigs and 16th Street. And as you know, along here, there's lots of development going on. We go a little bit closer. Here's the addition. The lot 196 is what's there now. And we are proposing to add 29 feet and 6 inches. 10 feet, as we all know, is by right. And that's what we're here for, is to ask for an additional 19 feet and 6 inches. The rear yard setback is 20 feet. So we're 3 inches off of that. Luckily on this one, there isn't really any sun issues because we are the farthest north on this block. So really any shade is coming on in the street or the alley, and we'll look at that in a little bit. I'll just go over the plans quickly. Let me zoom out a little bit. This is the existing unit here, and this would be unit A, where it consists of an open living space and a bedroom. And we'd go downstairs into the cellar down here for 2 more bedrooms and an egress wall. You can see this is where we cut the dog leg. So even though we're asking for an additional 19 feet 6, past that 10 feet along the property line, it's only an extra actually 11 feet. And then we go in 3 foot 10 and then go back another 8 foot 6. And we did that for 2 reasons. The one is we could get now 2 bedrooms, and as we'll see on the top floor, well, it just allows for additional lighting, and also for the neighbors, so that it doesn't look like a big massive wall. And we'll look at that in the 3D renderings in a little bit. The second unit would be the second and new third floor. And that is basically the same thing. The second floor has an open living space with 1 bedroom in the back. And then the top floor would be 4 bedrooms. And then the front half would have a roof deck, and the back half would have lower walls for, once again, so that we don't extend those 4 extra feet. So it just helps with the massing once again. We'll look at these quickly because I do have the 3D ones, which obviously I think tells more of the story. But here's the front, the 3 stories, here's the back, and you can kind of see where the lower roof comes to play over here. And then we'll just look at the side view along, I think, was it Meigs? What that elevation will look like, and then where the neighbor would be. This is the existing residence, the new third floor, and then this would be the addition. And here you can see kind of where we break it down, the 10 feet by right, then we're going back another 10 foot and 11.5, go into the dog leg, and that goes back another 8 foot, 6.5. And we go to the 3D images. This is the corner. Oh, look, I've got the wrong address from the last project on there. I got to change that. But there's, this is what it would look like with existing neighbors to the south. And basically, the existing house lines up to about the fence right here. I'm going up, and then we'd be pushing back, going back over here. As you can see, the shadows are all coming this way.
Why you have that view there? I have a question for you. The last view when you were on Meigs. Which one was it?
Which one? Wait, what is the snow?
I think maybe it was slide 2.
This one?
That one, yes.
Mhm.
I was a question. The fence that projects out, is that within the proper? When I look at the survey plat for the property's on the property line. I know the existing property, they kind of, their fence kind of jumped out, kind of grabbed some of the public way, the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Is that are you continuing to do that?
Yeah, we're just continuing to use that existing fence. So if DDOT does have an issue with that, then we'd have to, remove it, and then it'd be in line with the house in the back, with the back wall. And then we go to the next slide. This would be from the other angle, so you have a better idea of what the existing house next door looks like, and then the addition to the top. And this would be the backyard. So, the shadow I don't really think is an issue since, it's on the north side. It's more of the massing. And you can see here in the front is where we'd have that 4-foot parapet. But in the back, there's no deck. So we brought down the height of the walls as low as we can with the roof. And then we added this dog leg just to lessen, the effect of the massing from the neighbors on this side, on the south side. And this would just be looking on the street, looking back towards the rest of the houses. And then we did prepare a sun study. However, I got the matter of right and correct. I included it all the way to the rear yard setback. So that we'd have to change that, and we'll change that hopefully by tomorrow, and I can send that again. But you can see on the proposed examples, once again, the sun is always coming from the south. So there is no effect of any shadows onto any of these neighbors down here. So I think it's really more a study of the massing rather than any type of shading. And this is in winter.
And this is Derek.
Mm-hmm.
So would it would have a new basement space, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that basement space isn't going to touch the neighbor's house, or?
No, just financially, it's our first investment here in DC. And even though I've done over probably like 40 of these for clients where we do dig out everything, the existing neighbor stops right, well, it actually stops right here, right there, and then it'd go back this way. So there's the existing neighbor this way. So there'd be a little bit of underpinning along this wall, and this would be all new wall here. Yeah, we just don't want to spend the money to do the whole thing.
I'm curious, just.
So the reason for that much extension is so that it can be a livable basement?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so we could get more, more square footage.
Okay. So if you were to build a basement under the original portion of the house, would you still want that extension, that additional 20-foot extension?
I mean, possibly, just because financially, how much more that would cost, we would have to have more bedrooms in order for it to make sense.
I have a question, and you probably roughly, because this comes up all the time, roughly how much does it cost per linear foot to underpin? Like, I'm sure I don't know that changes from
Yeah.
year to year, but like how much does underpinning cost?
I mean, linear foot, I mean, for something like this to underpin is probably about 10,000. So that's about, what is it, 16 feet? And it depends too how deep you have to go. Is it only a foot? Is it 2 feet? How long is the neighbor's wall? So I mean, I've had underpinning for my projects go anywhere probably from about 10,000 to 80,000. So it can add a lot of cost. And also, here would have to go down. They only have crawl spaces here, and they're not that deep. So we'd possibly have to go down about 6 feet. So that'd be a lot of work, a lot of underpinning. So I could definitely see this being on the higher end if we were to do any underpinning along the existing. That could probably be 50, 60, 70,000.
Yeah, I did not get that earlier. I missed that. So there's no existing basement under the house. It's just crawl space.
It's
right
just
now.
crawl space, yeah. And it's very minimal from what I could see. I don't even know if it's a legal crawl space, because the bottom of the joists need to be at least 18 inches from the top of the dirt. I don't think it's even that from what I could tell.
Barely any of those properties on 16th Street have a basement.
Yeah.
So
I'm just-
I'm going to raise an issue. I wouldn't say an issue, but I should even. We haven't seen a 30-foot addition supported in a long time, just because it creates. I mean, generally the developers try to stick, as you saw in your last presentation. Even when they get like to 20 feet, it starts getting dicey, and we end up attending a lot of the BZA hearings, and they don't seem to like to. I mean, they specifically even revamped the regulations a few years ago, specifically to prevent this. There were several projects that were built on Moore Street, where the developers did these massive, additions that really impact. Now you're on the north side, so it doesn't really have that impact of the light. In fact, I would argue you probably do not impact the light because you're on the north side. The only light you're shading is on the sidewalk and the road. But just from a precedent standpoint, I haven't seen anything this large, supported in a long time. But I'm gonna let, we've got two ANC commissioners here. I'll let them chime in.
Yeah, no, that's exactly my thinking.
You hit the nail.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's very dangerous to have these kind of projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely don't know when the last ones were approved. There are some along the street, across the street, that are extending that much. If I have some site photos here, but I don't think I show it here. But there are some along 16th Street along this side. Maybe there's 3 of them, and I do call them out in my burden of proof. That do extend between, I think it's like 17 to 30 feet. But once again, I don't know when they were approved.
Yeah,
Some of them do look newer within the last 2 or 3 years, but they could have been approved 5 years ago and just recently completed construction.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
are really old projects that took a long time to get to the point where they are now.
Yeah.
I used to live on this street, so I recognize that nothing like this exists on this block.
Well, and I've noticed that there's a lot on 16th Street that are available lots and could potentially start digging basements and building new construction from the basement up. And it won't be a security issue for the buildings because they're empty lots. So I'm wondering about your property. I think the lot 248 next to it, that is an apartment building, so it has a different back section.
Along these houses here?
Yeah, lot 248.
Let me- Yes, yeah, that extends a little bit further. Yeah, these four houses are almost the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then back here, it extends a little bit further back and a little bit further front.
Well, my point was just that if you look at the neighborhood, and if we draw precedence from that, what's typically happened on Moore Street, there's not a great precedence for that because most of the houses are the same size. So there's been a lot of pushback for having, to keep that aesthetic with all of the houses looking the same.
Yeah, I mean, this,
Here,
our
there is,
lot-
well, here is a little different than Moore Street. There is more variety. So I agree, it's going to be hard to approve something the size that you're recommending, but I think that, if it were new construction, it may be considerable. So maybe you could provide, completely wipe the house and provide it as new construction as opposed to a renovation. Just a thought.
yeah, I mean, I haven't thought about that. Financially, to raise the whole house would definitely cost more. But I guess if we did raise the whole house, then you could probably do a full basement. But just cost and time, it'd take longer. Yeah, and if you look at across the alley to lot 254 and these, it is almost similar in size to these over here as well. As lot 260, it's pretty close to these as well. So I don't think it's completely out of character. Maybe for the
It would
neighborhood
be.
as a whole, I don't think it's out of character.
It would be.
If you're just comparing these four, I'd agree. But you have the new development that's going across the street here, those two newer ones. This is the massing that those are as well.
I guess the challenge here is not that it's character is kind of a conversation more so for historic districts.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the issue we're raising is about the precedent and how setbacks create a new standard on the block for the adjoining properties.
Mm-hmm.
So for those properties that are not adjoining, we're not so much concerned about the impact there because, like I said, it's not a historic district kind of character debate. It's a zoning precedent conversation.
Yeah, I do understand the pain point of having a small house being next to that one because having that limited space and having a small house next to that, you really limit your options. So I understand that's a pain for you because there is more housing in that area and updated housing, energy efficient housing that does have a lot of foundation. So I think what you're trying to build is the addition. It financially makes sense to you, but that doesn't specifically justify an exemption. So
I definitely understand that.
Agreed.
Agreed.
I mean, how would it affect though from the comment that we're saying if it was a new build? I mean, what difference would that make? Because we'd still be requesting the extension past the 10 feet, from my understanding.
I think if you did a new build, I think the assumption is you would actually be doing a dig out at the basement. So you would have that space, and then the addition, I think the hope would be that you wouldn't need a 30-foot addition, maybe it's something more in
Correct.
line. Because I think most, I mean, I probably should keep a spreadsheet of, since they revamped, I mean, because I don't doubt that there are plenty of houses in the neighborhood that have, I mean, there's some houses on Moore Street with like 40, 50-foot additions, and they are horrible. Yeah, it's just the houses are horrible. It's just like they completely have overshadowed the adjoining properties, and because of those, and a lot of those were approved in like 2015, 2016. They revamped the zoning regulations, so most of them stopped getting built. Since they revamped that, and since the zoning regulations became the 10-foot setback in the RF1 neighborhoods, we typically don't see, even the developers, they try to keep it under 20 feet when they come here, because it's just, that seems to be something that is more palatable towards, I haven't seen a 30-foot I haven't seen the 30-foot supported in years. I just think you could spend a lot of time and effort trying to do this. And even if the agency was like, oh, we think this is fine, the BZA might shoot you down because they just don't like 30. You might have more experience going in front of the BZA than we do, but I think you might invest a lot of time and energy, and they're going to look at this, and the BZA themselves may not support this. But just from the sounds of it, it sounds like the ANC commissioners are not enthusiastic either.
Not from the one that actually has that property in their district.
So
Yeah.
I actually think that if you are going to extend back, this is probably one of the best types of locations on the block to do it, because it is on a corner end lot location. And so it actually, the additional building in this location actually improves the street along Miggs Place. So this is a bit of an exception, I think, and it is an improvement for the built environment to add, particularly here. If it was the middle of the block, I think it would be, the cons outweigh the pros. But I think in this type of situation, there is a way to look at it as an exception that does have positive aspects to it.
I appreciate. I agree. I do agree that if this was the middle of the block, yeah, and then because it's Miggs and because there's really no light and shadow impact to adjoining neighbors, this is probably the best location you could ever do a deep addition. But 30 foot is still pretty deep.
And that's the way I felt as well. If we were, say, lot 198, there's no way I'd come to you guys asking for that, because the shadow it'd be ridiculous on multiple properties. For me, it's definitely much more of a massing study than the shadow. So I think that's really how does it affect these lots as far as massing. And as Commissioner Moore, it could set a precedent. I'm definitely aware of that.
I will say these are the nicest renderings I've seen anyone ever present. I mean, these are like absolutely, like, obviously it's your own home and you're an architect, so you can spend a lot of time making them look, but I do appreciate being able to look at this and see the house in context with the neighbors. Right. Personally, I really like the design of the house. It's just the 30 foot is
Way too much. It's just way too much.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple, it's just way too much. And we understand that you bought this property probably thinking that you would, obviously want to make the most out of your investment, but it's just way too much and it's going to affect the neighborhood way too badly. Especially being
Yeah.
someone that actually lived on this street. And now I live on Miggs, but it's just way too much.
I mean,
Yeah.
something more, I forgot which commissioner said, but if it's something closer to 20 feet, is that something getting more reasonable rather than the 30? And I do understand the 30 is a big ask. Believe me, I knew that when I bought the property, but we got to test all the roads we've got, all the options.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
I'm-
have that right to
Go
make that investment and it makes entire sense, but I'm just looking out for the block. Honest to God, I'm just looking out for the block and I just know what this, if this is approved or anything fairly similar is approved, it's gonna take it's gonna take a negative effect on certain properties.
I mean, the good news is your hearing isn't until May 11th. And, you know, as an architect, I think you have a lot of time to come up with, you know, maybe a couple different concepts for the next meeting and you can present it to the commissioners and see how they feel about that. You know, I mean, time is on your side here because you do, you know, and you use opportunities to present at the ANC meetings. You can come back to the zoning committee meetings, which are more, you know, technical. You've got architects, you know, who sit on the committee and review these as well. You know, and people who do appreciate the design. We appreciate the risk there is with any investment. But yeah, that would be my recommendation, is to kind of show some alternate plans that would be, you know, just for your own benefit, more likely to get through the BZA, even if you manage to get through, you know, the ANC. I just haven't seen the BZA do these recently, approve these recently.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to work with the neighborhood. I have some clients that don't care what the neighbors think and they just push through. I don't like when they do that. So, you know, definitely willing, you know, I'm not going to plow through this if this isn't the, you know, the best interest of the neighborhood. So, you know, I definitely, like I said, luckily I'm the architect. I slept well last night, so I could stay up all night and I could be working on this.
And just knowing that what some of these new property owners that do these kind of projects go through afterwards, I wouldn't recommend you to going through that. If you actually move on to the block, they are victims of some crazy things just because they put these things out in the neighborhood and just certain people are just not fans. So I would not recommend you to put yourself through that just because it was just better on your budget.
Another comment, I know, so you're going to come back, you know, the zoning committee meets the third Thursday of every month, so you can reach out to us, you have our email. And if you're going to present multiple different concepts, honestly, it's whatever time you want to put into it. Just remember, we really prefer family size housing. So, you know, like I'm not thinking you're going to get 2-3 bedrooms into here, but like it is important. The neighborhood is seeing a loss of family size housing. What was formerly a 3-bedroom house suddenly gets chopped into, you know, 2- and 1-bedroom condos. So whenever you're looking at your concepts, if you can try to preserve at least one family size unit, that's always makes
Yeah,
it easier for the.
And how many square feet is the current house?
Let me, I think I've got it.
It's a
on here.
tiny little thing.
Yeah, I think it's 800 square feet. Let me see.
That is.
Yeah, that's not quite
Almost
a-
900,
so.
what is that, 884? The
Yeah,
square
that's
feet, each floor is 477.
so
954.
a lot of the houses on Make Street aren't. So I think that's not quite a valid point. If we want to have more family size houses, then it needs to go bigger. So I understand if you want to build bigger and we want more family size housing, then we have an affordable housing crisis here in this district. So I think I appreciate that you're trying to build something that provides options to the neighborhoods. I know we need more houses in our neighborhoods in general. So, and more housing. So I think this needs to be designed well and need to be considering the precedent.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last part of what you said, need to be considering, and then I couldn't hear that last word.
Yeah, I was just saying that it needed to be designed well, and we need to consider the precedent because there's already family size houses on the street, but the old houses on the street are not family size houses. So I think we need to consider a new precedent, because if we're considering family size houses versus new builds, I would recommend you to consider a new build as opposed to trying to do this extension. I don't think it's going to actually make anybody happy when you're keeping half of the old and trying to build part of the new. That 30 feet, I don't think that's going to please anybody.
Yeah, and you're going with the family housing. Everybody now, well, I don't know about everybody, but all of my new clients since the pandemic, I'm sure you're aware, everybody needs their home office now. The houses have grown in size. Definitely the more bedrooms, and even that one, the second unit, which is 4 rooms on top and then another bedroom on the main level of unit B. This extra bedroom is an office. It's for the in-laws. So this really is only a family size house for the parents and 3 kids. So it's not, I mean, it's not huge, especially nowadays for what how families are made and what families are looking for in a house.
How many bedrooms was the existing house?
2, I believe. 2 all, I think it's like 3, but the third one, I don't think classified as a bedroom. It's ridiculously small. It was more like a bigger closet. And then
What
1
they
bathroom
do.
up above.
That's what they do here in 5D. It's practically a closet, but they consider it a bedroom if it has a window.
Yeah. I mean, you only need 70 square feet, and the minimum size has to be 7 feet. I don't want. I think those size bedrooms are ridiculous. That's why all of these that I provided are. I think these 2 are 9'6" by 10. This is 10 feet with a little bit more, and the primary bedroom's a little bit bigger. So yeah, I mean, we could definitely shrink everything, but I was trying to get as comfortable as possible on this first go around.
I'm sorry, I got on the call late.
Mhm.
I have a question. You are converting the property to how many units? 3?
Just 2. So that's the by right. You could go single family to 2 dwellings.
And
Anything else?
both
Yeah, just 2.
dwellings are 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom?
The lower or the upper unit that, if you can see here on the screen, it's a 5 bedroom. There's 1 bedroom on the second floor behind the open living space, and the 4 bedrooms on the top. The lower unit, unit A, has the primary bedroom at the back, and then 2 bedrooms in the cellar. So that'd be a 3 bedroom. So it's a 3 bedroom and a 5 bedroom.
Did you intend to make at least one of them affordable, like at the 50% AMI or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, when we go to rent, I mean, we're open to any type of rental possibilities.
Because
Thank you.
I think the properties across the street from this one are the only ones that I think are fairly high cost in terms of rent. Everything else is fairly fair, from my understanding. On 16th Street, on this part of 16th Street.
The ones that are the semi-new ones that are
Yes.
by next to those ones that are under construction. That seem
Yeah,
like
the
they're
ones that
busted.
I'm sure were approved when Kathy Henderson was in the mix.
Do you know what's going on with those 3 properties that seem like they've stopped construction?
That
Have they been like that for a while?
That's been like that for at least 2-3 years now.
Wow.
So don't know if they ran out of money due to pandemic, but they haven't been making moves on them. Become an illegal dumping site, honestly.
Which lots are these? The looking at, is it?
I think it's 2, 12, 13, and 14. It's 3 of these. I'm not sure which 3. I think on if you go to Google Maps, I think you can see it. You can see them excavating.
Yeah, I can see on Street View, you can see they've like dug the foundations, and actually seem they've got the concrete forms in
I think
place.
that, yeah, I think they stopped in 2020 last I remember from what work was being done there.
Yeah, and looking online, on their plans, I think they were 55 feet, I think, in length. These three. Obviously they were approved, I think, a while ago, but it would be similar massing to what this would be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head. We'd have to go look to see were they even a BZA case, what those were. What it is actually is they could probably go back because they probably just respected the 60% lot occupancy because none of them were adjoining another property. So there was the 10-foot zoning regulation didn't apply.
Yeah.
And that's probably why they could. So my guess is that those buildings are exactly 60% of the lot. It's why they
Yeah,
were
pretty big.
So, so I have another question. Derek's going to step out.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I was heading out.
Okay. So unless there's any other questions, I want to be respectful of everyone's time here. Does anyone have any further questions for Mr. Taran?
No questions. Just a recommendation. If you plan on doing something like this, I would just recommend saving some time and having a plan B quick and ready.
I appreciate that. I want to hear from all your thoughts. You guys are the ones that have been living here and understand the neighborhood. It's definitely valuable input.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, really, and we do appreciate the 3D renders, and we appreciate anyone willing to take a risk and to build. So but I think we're definitely looking forward to the revisions.
Okay. Yeah. No, we'll work on that.
And I do congratulate you on the renderings. They are quite nice.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so do the residents.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we want everybody to understand what you're getting. If you want, you guys could come over to my office. We do virtual reality too. That's pretty cool. You walk through the building and everything.
Okay, all right. Well, folks, thank you so much. I'm gonna call this an evening. Thank you so much for attending, everybody, and I appreciate the questions and feedback. And yeah, that's it. I hope everyone stays safe and have a good rest of your month, and see you all around the neighborhood. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.